Let me just do a little. Okay, yeah, right there is good. Right there is good. The female reproductive cycle, the menstrual cycle, it affects every human being on this planet, irrelevant of who you are, where you live, or what you think. It's code in our DNA that kicks in for 50% of our species from puberty, around the age of 12 or 13, plus or minus a few years, all the way up to menopause, which is around the age of 50, 55, plus or minus a few years. Now, for me, I really didn't understand this, what I just said, until I was into my early adulthood, which is absolutely crazy. Okay. And the way I was able to relate to this, the way I was able to take that information and work with it, make it a part of me, to improve my human experience, was to think of the menstrual cycle as a cyclic function. And what's a cyclic function? A cyclic function is something that repeats. May it be the earth going around the sun, may it be you getting up in the morning, every morning brushing your teeth, may it be you running around the track, may it be sine waves, may it be waves in the ocean, may it be light, may it be sound, may it be vibrations. Okay? All of those things are cyclic functions, as is the menstrual cycle. So what we're going to do right now is talk about the menstrual cycle as a cyclic function. Now, obviously, I'm not an expert in this, so I recruited the help of a really good friend of mine. And what we ended up doing is going for a little suburban fruit picking walk. And she ended up taking me to a top of a mountain where she had seen some graffiti. And luckily, we found a nice little patch of wall to, create a little graph of the menstrual cycle being represented as a very basic form of a cyclic function. Okay, so what I'd like to do right now is introduce you to Diane. So what we're going to do right now, we're going to go to this wall, and we're basically going to visualize, in the most basic form, obviously, the female reproductive cycle. Yeah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
So we're going to do 28 days in the horizontal
on the
axis?
Horizontal. Yeah.
Like the x-axis?
On the x-axis? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is now our x-axis, and our x-axis is time. We're going to try to cut this in half. So that's 14 days, 7 days, 21 days.
That's 4 weeks.
1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Okay. So this is time, and our time is in days. What are we going to do with our y-axis? What are we going to call this?
Stuff's really happening.
Stuff is happening.
Stuff's happening.
Okay, cool. Should we put an axis? Should we put numbers on it? Like a 10?
Sure. 10 being the most happening.
It's happening.
10's the most happening.
Like you can't miss it. This is it.
This is important stuff here.
Okay.
But delve in further for more information about hormones and the uterine lining.
Okay, so what are we doing now?
So we're starting at the first day of menstruation. The first day that there's bleeding. The first day.
Okay.
Day 1.
So that's where the cycle starts.
Yeah.
So we're going to call this the start point. So what are we going to do from here? This is when you start bleeding.
Yes.
And this is called menstruation.
Yes.
This is called menstruation. And how long does this last in general?
Well, menstruation in general lasts about 5 days, but some women could be 2 days. Some women could have a full 5 days, and yeah.
Okay, so length varies. So you're saying it could last up to 5 days?
Yeah, so give or take.
And this is where it's peaking or coming down?
Coming down.
So this is where it's ending. So we're going from here to here, and I'm assuming this is symmetrical, yeah?
Yeah, it can vary for women.
It can vary.
Yeah.
Varies.
It could build, and it could be like a perfect bell,
Oh, it could be
could go with that.
Okay, so we could go with a perfect bell. So what we're going to do is kick this up as a bell shape all the way up to the center point, the peak being, you can't miss it, it's happening. right?
Yeah.
So, and this is
Menstruation.
Menstruation. And this happens approximately every 28 days.
Well, then in the middle is the ovulation.
Okay, so we have menstruation, and then
And then at about day 14, there's ovulation. So the egg is released from the ovary.
okay. And how long does this period last?
There's like this time between, maybe 3 days before, 3 days after, that it seems to
Okay.
go together.
So this is the peak, and this is called.
Ovulation.
So this is like basically the most basic form of the female reproductive cycle.
Very basic.
Very
And then,
basic.
so then at day 28, then the cycle starts again back here.
Okay. So
Yeah.
at this point, the cycle starts again, and you're back here, and this whole thing repeats. So if you take this, right? So this is basically 28 days. If you take this and take 365 and divide it by 28, you get approximately 13. So if you take this and lay it back to back, right, 13 times, you've gone through one whole year. Just so it's understood how this looks. Anyway, if it looked for me, or if you look at it from a mathematical perspective, this thing here, menstruation, in mathematics, in physics, we call this cycle where you can take something and put it back to back. We call this the period of the female reproductive cycle, or any cycle you want to talk about. If this is the cycle of something else, the period of the cycle is 28 days. So there's a menstruation period of 28, and there's a ovulation period of 28. You just put it back to back, and that's 13 periods, 13 times it happens.
Yeah, 13.
That's it.
I think it's important also just to note that this is like the release of the egg, ovulation,
Yeah.
and then this is the shedding of the egg. That's all the blood is the shedding of
okay,
the.
so
it's good to know the relationship. Egg is released here,
Egg is released here.
so like it would go here 14 days earlier.
Okay. So the egg is
Ovulation.
and this is the egg right now is sitting on the uterus.
Yeah, it's implanting.
This is implanting.
Yeah,
right
it's implanting. It's going down the fallopian tubes. It's like going through a whole journey, this egg.
now. Oh, okay.
Fallopian tubes
yeah, so
into
there's
the uterus, into the uterus,
Okay.
and then the egg wants to implant into the uterine lining and be fertilized. That's what
Okay.
it wants to do. It's
So-
its mission.
So by this time, if it's not fertilized,
If it's not fertilized,
it releases.
it releases. The uterine lining starts to shed, and that is shedding the egg as well, and the whole
Whole cycle.
the tissue actually grows, sheds, grows, sheds.
Okay.
That's a very active part of the female.
Okay. So this is basically the most basic form of how you can take a look at how I looked at the female reproductive cycle, and this is as basic as it gets, and it allowed me to be able to relate to half the people in my species, the human race, right? And that's it. And guys, thank you, Diane, for at least walking us through this, right?
Right.
And this is very basic. This doesn't, other things can happen. It doesn't happen with people extreme. Sometimes things miss. There's doubling up. There's missing of periods, missing of cycles,
And there's pain too.
and there's
Some
pain
women go
involved
through
with it.
so much pain.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of pain.
Migraines and vomiting. But that's taking it pretty far, right?
Yeah. No,
what I
that's
mean.
good.
Someone may not notice very much at all or be very affected
Okay.
on a pain scale.
On a
There's
pain
the emotions too that go with the hormones fluctuating.
Yeah. So this isn't just simple.
No.
Oh yeah, this happens and this
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
There's a lot of emotions involved in this.
Yeah, emotions,
Yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of physical pain or physical
Could be.
pleasure or physical
There's a
things.
physical experience
It's a
in this
physical
cycle. Yeah.
Physical and emotional.
Yeah.
And emotional.
And chemical?
And chemical. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
chemical reaction.
Yeah,
This
there's
is
all these chemicals
being released.
being
and-
released at certain times. And
Okay.
causing different things to happen.
But this is basically it. This is as rudimentary as it gets. The
Yeah,
female
I think so.
female cycle.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Diane.
Yeah, thank you. I hope it makes sense. It's a good place to start. Hi, Mom.